Hello, I'm Bailey Lager, and today on my channel I'm going to be talking about the 2019-2020 MLB Free Agency period that's been currently going on. There's still players that haven't been signed, but a lot of the big players have been already signed during the winter meetings that just happened, and I wanted to talk about those signings. So really this offseason, this free agency period for Major League Baseball, has evolved around three players that played in the 2019 World Series and were big players in this series. The first person I'm going to talk about is Steven Strasburg for the Washington Nationals. He was a big player that was a World Series MVP. One of the two big free agents for the Washington Nationals. I think the Nationals probably knew they were going to have to, they needed to sign at least one player, and they probably were only going to be able to sign one of the two. I'll talk about the other player later in my video, but Steven Strasburg, one of the first draft picks for the Washington Nationals. Has had a great career with them, had one of his best seasons, ever this year, had an unbelievable postseason. He was very deserving of the MVP award, and, the Nationals have been really won that World Series thanks to great starting pitching, and that entire postseason run was due to that, and, they rewarded him with that deal. They gave him a 7-year, I think it was a record for basically like a day for most money spent on a starting pitcher. It was like 7 years, $245 million deal for him. I think for the big winner of this trade was definitely Steven Strasburg. He gets, the big money, and he gets to stay in, DC and play for the Nationals. So then we move on to the other big free agent pitcher that was on the market this offseason. The one player Steven Strasburg faced in the 2019 World Series, and that guy was Garrett Cole. He had an unbelievable postseason, probably should have won the American League Cy Young Award. I think at least he should have. And we knew he was going to get paid more than Steven Strasburg. Now, there were several teams going after him. Obviously, the big one was the Angels. He West Coast boy from California. A lot of people thought he had kind of an East Coast bias, but the team that signed him, made him forget that, because I think they reminded Garrett Cole what he wants. He wants a lot of money in his deal. Don't get me wrong on that, but he also wants to win a championship. And who can he win it with? Who does he have the best chance to win the World Series with? The Angels or the team that signed him? And that team was the New York Yankees, and they signed him to what was a 7 or 8 year deal worth over $320 million. It was just record for a pitcher. The first starting pitcher ever in baseball history to get an over $300 million contract. So it was just ridiculous. But, the Yankees, this is kind of the Yankees of old instead of the Yankees in this decade. The Yankees have really not, have had the payroll always. They always have the highest payroll in baseball for the most part. But they've been more in recent years, more about let's develop, from within. Let's not spend on big free agents like we've, did in the 90s and the early 2000s. And they didn't do that and for a while, but now they, I think after losing, they've, the last 3 times that they've been eliminated from the postseason, or three out of the last 4 times that they've been in the postseason, they've been eliminated by the Houston Astros. And what better way than to steal one of their big pitchers? I definitely think the Yankees are probably now considered the favorites in the American League to go to and win the World Series next season. So the Angels, who were targeting Garrett Cole, it looked like it was going to be, they were going to throw a lot of money at him, but it just, they just fell short. They still need starting pitching, but they definitely needed a plan B, and they needed to give help to Mike Trout, this generational player that has only been to the postseason once in his career. They had to, give him something, and they did do that. They went after the other big free agent name from the Washington Nationals, Anthony Rendon, signed him to, I think it was a 7 or 8 year deal worth $245 million. Basically, the similar, only a couple million off from the deal that Steven Strasburg got, if not the same. Adds a great bat to their lineup. And this would have been a player, I think the Nationals, if they had to pick one or two, between Steven Strasburg and Anthony Rendon, I would have probably signed Rendon, but I'll get to that in a minute. But, the Angels is a big, they have, their lineup looks really good, but they still need to go after starting pitching, which they definitely, I think, will do. They'll definitely add a pitcher or two, hopefully. But, it puts a really good bat behind Mike Trout and, plus some of their other great hitters in their lineup, such as Andrelton Simmons, Justin Upton, Shohei Ohtani. So some quick thoughts on the Nationals' choices of what they went for in this offseason, giving the money to Strasburg instead of Anthony Rendon. I don't think there's really a wrong answer, to be honest, but my personal preference, I think I would have given the money to Anthony Rendon because, listen, starting pitching wins you championships, and I know that. And having that 1, 2, 3, and possibly a fourth punch with Anibal Sanchez with the Nationals is very deadly. And I think in this postseason, the Nationals pretty much prove you don't have to necessarily have the best bullpen, but if you have good enough starting pitching, you can go anywhere. But they lost this is the second off season in a row that they've lost a big bat. Now, losing Bryce Harper, I don't think is going to really affect this, but Rendon has been, I think, a lot more consistent than Bryce Harper. And losing that, a big power bat, yeah, you still have Juan Soto, you still have guys like Trey Turner. They're bringing back Howie Kendrick, which is going to be a great veteran presence in that lineup. Adam Eaton and guys like that, but losing Rendon, who was your MVP, is definitely going to be hard, and I think it's a little bit worrisome for the Nationals in years to come when guys like Trey Turner and Juan Soto eventually become free agents. Can the Nationals actually sign these players? So this is definitely going to be really concerning for the Nationals in the years to come. So there were a lot of other notable free agents signed during this offseason so far. I'm going to talk about a couple of them. Yasmani Grandal, who was signed before the winter meetings, he signed with the Chicago White Sox. Pretty good deal for the White Sox and a good bat to put in their lineup as the White Sox are looking to make that next step forward. Zach Wheeler, he was another big starting pitcher on the free agent market, and he signed a big deal with the Philadelphia Phillies. And definitely the Phillies, they need some pitching. I think they really need bullpen help more than starting pitching, but they need pitching all around, so that was a good deal for them. Cole Hamels, he signed a 1-year deal with the Atlanta Braves. This is a similar deal that they made with Dallas Keuchel during last season, and I think same principle, and I think it's a good 1-year deal. Didi Gregorius, who spent a good portion of the season recovering from Tommy John surgery, but he came back and he was a big component in the Yankees, division championship and also their postseason run. He reunites with his old manager, Joe Girardi, and he was signed by the Philadelphia Phillies. So the Phillies have had a really good offseason. Will Smith, the bullpen pitcher from the San Francisco Giants, he signed with the Atlanta Braves. I like the signing, and you can never have enough bullpen, but kind of weird considering they already have closers. So kind of an odd deal, but I think it's a good deal. Rick Porcello, the former American League Cy Young Award winner, he was offered multi-year deals, but he signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the New York Mets. And I think I think it's a reset for him from a free agency standpoint. He spent a lot of last season injured, and had a bad year. He's looking to have a much better season next year. And then, when it comes to free agency next year, he's going to reset his market. And I think that's very smart of him to do that. Mike Moustakas, a big third baseman for, teams like the Royals and the Brewers. He signed with the Cincinnati Reds on a 4-year deal. I think it's a good signing for the Reds, as they're trying to get out of mediocrity. And then Howie Kendrick re-signed with the Nationals on a 1-year deal. The postseason hero for him. It was very big, and definitely with the loss of Anthony Rendon, they're going to recording this video. There are a lot of remaining free agents out on in the free agency market. A lot of big names too. One of the big names now that Anthony Rendon's been signed is Josh Donaldson. He had a really good year last year, was able to stay healthy finally. And it was one of the better 1-year deals in recent history. He had a really good season with the Atlanta Braves. A lot of teams are looking at him, including the Washington Nationals. Definitely with the loss of Anthony Rendon, they need to fill that third base spot. The Atlanta Braves want to bring him back. The Angels are not the Angels, but a couple other teams have been looking at him. The Texas Rangers, who have been looking at many free agents and have just unfortunately not been able to sign anybody, would definitely like him in their lineup. So, he's a player I think multiple teams are looking after. Probably the biggest name is Madison Bumgarner. After guys like Cole or Zach Wheeler, Garrett Cole and Steven Strasburg have been signed. You know, the Dodgers are looking at him, considering another free agent pitcher that they have is on the free agency market. But Madison Bumgarner, a lot of teams were looking at him. St. Louis, the Arizona Diamondbacks have even kind of looked at him as well. You know, the Dodgers have, it'd just be really weird, him being a Giant, just to see him in a Dodger uniform would be really odd. But, you know, he's in his early 30s. He's had that postseason success. You know, he's definitely one of the big free agents. Another big notable free agent starting pitcher is Hyun-Jin Ryu, who nearly won the Cy Young Award this year. He was probably one of the best, if not the best, pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I'm really kind of surprised that the Dodgers have not re-signed him because, you know, I mean, I would have thought they would have, but they just haven't. But a lot of teams are looking at him, such as the St. Louis Cardinals, and you know, it's tough to tell where he's going to stay, but it's likely not going to be in LA. Dallas Keuchel, who had, you know, was very underrated signing for the Atlanta Braves midway into the season last year. Some teams are looking at him. I could definitely see him going to the Angels, considering they need starting pitching badly. And I think he'd probably be cheaper than Ryu or Bumgarner. And then two notable free agent outfielders, Marcell Ozuna. Several teams are looking at him. He kind of had a disappointing year, but I think still that name and still his history, he could really bounce back. And then Nicholas Castellanos, he's been looked at by several teams, such as the Arizona Diamondbacks and a couple other teams. So, you know, there's still a lot of notable free agents on this market right now, and tough to tell when these players are going to be signed. What are your thoughts on the 2019-2020 MLB free agency period? And what are some of the best deals? What are some of the worst deals? And are there any other players I didn't talk about in this video? Just leave in the comments section below, and I'll give you my thoughts on those deals. As always, follow me on Twitter at Laser96. Click like if you like the video, and subscribe if you like the content on my channel. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you guys have a good day.